Hoy,
Ahoy. In a professional
nabulag.
manner.
Nabulag man. Mayang gabi, mayang gabi.
Gabi, kumusta? How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Let me check the levels. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, today, I mean, this week has been quite interesting. Okay, even though the has been busy, but I don't know. I felt nun. I feel less anxious
It's
for
good.
some reason. Maybe it's the feeling magkakaana na ka sa trabaho after how many months now? After 11 months? No, after 10 months of working for the company. So I think I'm getting the hang of
It's
it.
fast, no?
Yeah, it's been fast. Um, and yeah, and I think one of the highlights for this week is Baby B is moving houses. Ooh, go clip ko. Hold on.
Moving assets, yeah.
Yeah, he's moving houses, and he'll be a next door neighbor to you soon.
Yeah. Soon. I said dual region in walking distance.
Like how?
And
How?
I felt really or na amused ko. I think today was it today or yesterday na how was it? Katong serious ka siyang face niya. Gabidangan just like advance. And he got like really annoyed na.
Yeah.
What the WTD, what the dad?
Ligaw kay ko ito nga video kay.
Yeah.
I mean, he
I mean,
was so
it's a kid. It's
focused
just those things.
on the show, the TV, then samukon siya sa yung papa. And the funny thing is every time that he's here and there is sila matulog, and obviously he will, during the night he would watch TV shows as well.
Right.
And parehara gyapon ang mga gubaton. I mean, especially me, ako gid aga samuk-samukon, and
So I guess he's used to it.
and my wife would always, kanang badlungon ko niya kay dili lagi gid daw sa muko ng bata nga ga-relax. But his face is too cute not to mess him up. So,
Yeah. He's getting cuter by the day. So nabantayan na ako. Ano na bitaw siya kanang pictures na murag oy pantay. But I think lahat gini pag-abot ni grade school kay.
na siya dagway.
Ano siya nagway? Oh,
Yeah.
makita na gini mang young face.
Yeah, because before gaga 80s when we had dagway, I mean, he has.
So na.
Yeah.
He's got that identity na, di ba?
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, it's gonna be a heartbreaker.
What about you? What's up for this week?
Well, this week was not really that hectic, but I got it's fun kay nag 50-50 ang work ug ang mokongs, for some reason kaning mga months good leading to February, March ang kusog na mo. For some reason wala ni taper ang mga requests and whatnot, so
That's good news.
happens na may availability to work and do the side hustle at the same time. So
Yeah.
thankful na somehow for the past 2 weeks, ako February is looking to exceed ang ako ang January nga performance, which is quite good. I mean, it's I'll take it. Plus, obviously, terms of workload, same. When you're sort of used to your work for pila na years, I mean, if you're 10 months to my almost 7 years, almost 8 years, nahog na siya na you figure out mga hacks ba to do your work in like the first 2-3 hours of the day.
Yeah.
And at such a point that you'll end up figuring out ways also to in order for your mind not to wander in the office, you try to focus on not just kaya mo ang biggest stressor na ko is when I feel like did I miss anything? Kaya, I mean it's a chain of companies, I mean a chain of stores, so sort of manawag na ko, I start calling stores and see if everything's okay or if I missed anything. So more than that, it's one of those things when you feel like nahuman na ni mo yung work for the day, and then you start becoming quite anxious na yan. So balita somehow
Yeah.
your anxiety went down this week, which is great.
Yeah, it's a tricky, I would say, skill. Maybe it's a tricky skill to develop, where you really have to identify if you're in efficiency mode, in an efficiency mode where parehas yung maging na you're, working automatic now. I mean, most of your day-to-day operations is muscle memory, and most of your, let's say, issues at work or problems that come at work are structured na in your mind that you can solve this through this and that if this comes up. So it's conditional na ba, if this comes up, then this is the solution. If
That
that
is how
comes
you do
up,
it. Yeah.
and this is the way to go about it. You come up, you reach a time in your tenure with a certain organization where you're that efficient, and I feel like I feel like here with Talabat, with Delivery Hero, I am slowly in that stage already where, okay, any problem that comes about, I know already how to address it, or where to
That's
address
good.
it, basically. But there was also a time in my career, especially, and you mentioned 7 years you've been with this company, and I was also in my previous company at the Bizzle. I was 9 years with them. And I think there is also a tricky stage where you're efficient, but at the same time you're already comfortable,
Yeah.
and that comfort zone is also a bit dangerous in the sense that you're you're not accommodating change, or you're not accommodating growth because
Yeah.
you're already comfortable with where you are. So that's one thing I realized, especially back in the day.
That's a good call out kay most line managers when sa akong experience mag-start na ang mga narrative og inana, and they will start being comfortable with as structured bitaw nimo na day to day, week to week bisa na kay work plan. So inevitably matagaan na kana og mga, I mean, it's the curse of people who work smart na just because you finish tasks gives them a reason to add more or to give you more workload. So, and then on the other hand side, I mean, if you look at the other side, katong mo mga staff or mga kailan na, for example, they're struggling or they're not as fast, mahog na they're pretty much doing the same thing, and mo end up na matabang pasad ka. So it's really, it's mind-boggling how that operates, but in the end, it's I guess that's how companies are structured, especially now. It's departments really siloed, so there are people who are
Yeah.
in departments outside operations nga matabang, and at the same time ikaw said you get involved kay you're good in negotiating, or like, since most of the staff are like 95% are Filipinos, so I get to use my mother tongue, and then I get to talk to them, calm them down. So nana siya na nga mga quirks, na mga dynamics. So it's not that bad, but I guess it's a part na siya sa hazards of the work.
This is this episode is now slowly becoming a similar format, career talk that we had. I think it was 2 years ago na karon, or 3 years na ba? 2 years ago.
Mark was two, I think 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years ago with the CCS, and it was interesting.
So you guys are like,
I think that would be a good one to go through tonight, as you suggested.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Take me through your career trajectory. I mean, you don't have to go to details, but at least give me a timeline, especially after uni, because I know
Yeah.
the last. I mean, before we got together here in Dubai, the last time we caught up was, I think, Kasal man to ni Blutz, was it?
Yeah. Kato na complete,
Right.
semi-complete.
Yeah.
Kasi na blitz. Yeah.
Yeah, Kasal ni Blutz, and then I think the last, before I came here to Dubai, the last time I knew you were you had a very successful and a progressive career in the BPO industry back sa Pinas. But I never knew what happened after that. So if you can take me through, what exactly happened after uni.
I think after college, after
Yeah.
after university, which took me about 4.5 years to finish. Okay, for
What do you mean 4.5?
well, it's a combination of failing grades and love wins.
Failing grades. Michael
Well,
Rodriguez failing
yes,
grades
yes.
in uni?
I had an incomplete
That's hard to
grade
believe.
sa philo. I had a philo na
Jesus, of all the
incomplete.
subjects, philo yung na
Really
incomplete.
silly, yeah.
What
And
did
I
you
had to
miss?
finish.
Did you miss
I
an
had to
exam?
finish like, huh?
Did you miss an exam? What?
I missed I think a sem. I don't know. I missed a project, I guess, and I just didn't really think of it much.
So
So
hold on. So what were you doing? Did you miss a project or you miss an
I
exam?
I was, you know,
Were you out of
I think
town
it
with
was
someone?
I was yeah. Yes, yes. I
Oh,
mean,
did they hit
like,
the spot? Really?
love wins, di ba? Play mo. It's a
Oh
combination of
god.
missing grades and love wins, which ended up na mo such a blessing because it ended that I had to finish. I finished in the summer of 2004, so I finished right around May, and then when I did, timing kito na job fair ang people support na based sa Cebu, and then they went here sa Cagayan, and then they did a job fair sa Capital University, and all they wanted was people who could be kanang tawag nila call center agents. So it was
So
in
this
May, and then I had the
was
interview.
what,
2004,
2004?
kasagsagan siya sa
Yeah.
boom
Yeah.
sa BPO sa Philippines. Although it was already there since the early 2000s, but it's considered boom siya sa Cebu when the latest IT park opened. So long story short, I got the gig, I got the job, and then I started thinking right away. And then I had a girlfriend back then, and nahog na LD Army. So that was the time na, I was dead set to, if I wasn't going to start work sa Cagayan, then this was going to be an easy gig. Estudiara good. And we started memorizing scripts and whatnot, and then like it's going to be like a walk in the park. And then the pay was good. I mean, the pay was
Of course.
competitive. I started with a pay of 10,000 pesos. I mean, during that time, yeah, and then you're relocating to Cebu. Na imong cost of living would. I know I have family there, so I'm like, okay, I'm like, slam dunk me. I think I can make this work. And I started June 6, 2004. I started working, 20 Mikabook agents, and then I started training. Na, Toscoin ang imong pag-draw sa imong account. So, it's either you go for a technology account or travel. So, pag Toscoin, and then say Chura, travel ni. Traveling ko ta. So, I got assigned to travel, and then I worked for kanang as a technically airline reservations kind of agent, and then you do travel and whatnot for a program. I worked there for 1 year and a half. Okay, nahintaba to love loses na dayan. Love lost.
All right, so let me get that straight. So I'm assuming nagbulag mo sa iyong girlfriend ani nga time and you had to move out of Cebu. Is that what happened?
It was yes. I had sort of an epiphany. Na murag, dahil sa murag, no, I reacted too late, and then I started blaming myself. That it was happening. So murag nahog to na. And then the fact was during that time, nasa ko yung mga rebounds in between. Like kanang, God, murag, I can't explain what happened, but na relationship broke off, and then nagka-depressed ka and whatnot, and then you started, really blaming yourself and whatnot, blaming her also, and then blaming everybody else, and then August 31st, 2005, na-decide ko nga mo resign, and then I went home. And then may ko sa mga too late na siya because I think a month and a half later, nag-asawa siya, nagpakasal siya.
So
God darn it!
so 2006?
2005, iniuli ko sa Cagayan after a year sa Cebu. Almost a year and a half. I guess.
Okay, 2005. So napako sa Pinas. So is this the muna ni atong residency sa Stonestown? Was it?
This is Stonestown.
Stonestown, right?
Padong na ni Stonestown. Yeah. In intro to Baby on Board, the Fuentes Studios nga album, and then
Okay.
padong na ni siya. And then I natambay ko sa balay for 2 months, and then nagtrabaho na ko dito sa Arriba dayan. So I got that gig sa Arriba, remember?
Okay,
And then
yeah.
after
Got
that,
it.
I started 2006 sa Arriba around January. Ito ni Aglag ako India. Remember the rupee story? So,
Yeah.
so they were looking for a capable na agent. So I worked there sa November as an agent, and then napili ko na mo lead to team. So bato nag-start na akong career ato.
Okay.
Career trajectory nag-start siya sa team lead. Worked there for till 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so another BPO company came calling. Same ka pa job fair. So, nakuha si akong wife. Back then was my girlfriend. So, my future wife got a gig sa Ilaha. And then, you know what? This is probably going to work if matuto together. So, nauna siya for a few months around July. And then, inisunod ko right around September 2007. Moto nag, all good things had to end.
Right.
Sa pub.
So let's talk about let's dissect this. Let's talk about skills. Let's talk about skills and operations here. But
Yeah,
as
sure.
as a call center agent,
Call center. Call center.
call center, Jesus,
Silent T.
silent T. Okay, fine. All right, let's go with that accent. A call center agent.
Center.
What's your day to day like?
The day to day is before you start the routine, dipo jet. I mean, you're training. You train for 4 months, and hopefully pass for the next two. Isa mo probation. That was my training. I trained for 4 full months.
And
I
what
trained for
exactly do you do in your training?
For starters, nag-memorize ko 50 states sa United States. All airline area codes. Like airline codes, for example.
Oh yeah,
AX,
because your
JFK,
account was a travel account.
MCC, yeah. Memorize hubs, like mga airports like Dallas Fort Worth, JFK. And on top of that, dapat another skill that you have is nakay ability to fight off mga medyo maldito ng mga airline staff na yung sort of your counterparts nga either American or from another country. Depende sa airline. So if Aero Mexico, so Mexican yung custodia. So, compadre, ¿cómo estás? So, nakaimayin na yung mga language. And obviously, you have to be prepared. Okay? Before, di mo memorize tanan. So, the trick there was nakoy kanang binder with clear book.
Yeah.
And then you end up memorizing it, but the airline numbers and whatnot. So that took you like 4 months. Okay, you could get a call at any time. It could be anything. It could be anything. So it was really really tasking sa imong like mental, state. Dapat grabe ka capacity to learn. That was the skill, was to like really know trivial stuff.
So day to
And-
day, you'll be getting calls from clients.
From clients screaming at you, saying where's their ticket? I can't get on my flight.
All right.
I can't bring my dog.
All right. So
What a
apart
skill.
from obviously developing your language skills to a certain extent, what do you think? What do you think are the other skills, like long-term skills that you've acquired during this time? Okay, I've learned this in the call center, and this is a life skill I'll forever have.
I think ang listening skills na soft skills when it comes to kanang other nationalities. Kana you start to na ano na ko na siya. I learned it from the call center na seek to understand rather than be understood. Kana number one. And then comms. I mean, your ability to, as a Filipino, to have a very clear English na
Yep.
accent na wala kay katong mga vegetable
The
banana.
dictions and the accents, mga
And then obviously another thing is ang pakikisama sa. I mean, before ko na overseas, an OFW, you end up communicating with a lot of clients. So pila ka years later on akong trajectory as supervisor na and then eventually I'm a manager, and then you get na sales managers ako. So you have counterparts in the States na mawata na about whatnot. So it was a cool gig up until the time na 2014 na kailangan may mag-travel to the UAE.
okay.
So life skills, the number one is how just to talk yourself out of very sticky situations. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
guess
very
one
that's
of
a
the
very,
takeaways said, yeah,
yeah, that's a very nice skill to have. Um, Non-career related question, which
mine is
I'm
strong.
very very tempted to ask because
Ask it, sure.
I've been hearing this rumor slash intrigue slash, I don't know what do you call it. How true how true is the chismis that call center agents
Yeah.
are very promiscuous? And the
Um,
gun, so not only promiscuous, but there's a lot of hanky panky going on. There is a lot of affairs going on within the industry. And it's what I've heard, from what I've heard, is that it's a known secret, if you know what I mean. But those are just a story. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know if, so what's your take on that?
that's my take. I'm not speaking out of experience, and I'm not saying that this is me or any form.
What a disclaimer. Okay, but yeah, go on.
I'm not saying that to take any like similar form or shape or any similarities of people who are alive or dead or in trouble. But makaingon ko na there is like some truth to that.
Okay.
Happy for those na wala naka participate na how to say na stereotype, but there's a handful of how to say people that I am close with, that I'm associated with also, who yeah, who have been in that kind of mga sticky situations, either single sila or in a relationship, in a close relationship, or even married people. So I think in hindsight, I think it's more of the fact that most of the, I'm not saying all, but like you're always in the same like scenario, and it's a really high boiler type situation. And when you get out of work and like di pa katulgon, for example, whatnot, so there's a tendency for you guys to hang out and drink. Really high chance of people drinking outside. Okay, after gawas ka, let's say sa park or sa office, outside nagkalera mga restaurants that are gonna serve you cool drinks. So for those na
Adventures.
kumukulong, and I'm not saying na naghan mga sharks or mga predators na, like for example,
Well,
na
let's face
manager
it,
man sa
there
before
is.
call center.
There
So
are.
I'm not saying na ako to, but may mga tendencies or the mga chances na ma-appeal ka na, ma-associate ka na ng mga clicks. As much as possible, dili ko ganahan, hindi ko gusto mong appeal, but some reason, na one butt, nahimo na one case. So, yeah. I mean, I can give you like illustrations of how those are or kung sa ang nakahappen, but yeah, some sometimes mabuntis, or I mean, it's, or even have unfortunate situation before, and it happened to ako ang team. I mean, God rest her soul. I had staff, akong agents, murder niya ang akong isa ka agent.
Oh yeah, I heard about that
For
before.
that, yeah, that was way back in 2000. Gosh, that was
Mali sa Cagayan, di ba?
2008.
This was
Cebu na siya.
Cebu. Oh, okay.
Sinulog. Yeah, there was a really
That's a different story.
hindi mo siya popular na murder case, but it's yeah. I mean, they got the murder, and it happens na staff to na kunuha. I mean, like literally sat behind them, and then they were like, ano to siya, single white scorned woman issue. So
And the incident happened
and
because
yeah, I mean,
of what?
it was
the
murder for
affair?
hire. Murder for hire to siya. So I mean, there's a ton of stuff that happens. Hindi lang about promiscuity. It's embroiled in like murder, even estafa, all
Yeah.
those,
I've
'cause-
always wondered why that's the case, because I've tried to think about what's in the environment and what's in those situations which creates the temptation, because there are certain industries that is very conducive to affairs in general, right? Like
Yeah.
I've heard of, let's say the pharmaceutical industry. Agente and the doctor is agente. There are also the airline industry, which obviously you travel, you're being together for long hours for most days. So I was trying to somehow analyze
Correlate.
why correlate and analyze as well why that's the case for the call center agents in the call center industry. But maybe that is, I don't know, because I've haven't worked in that industry. So and
You
you
know
can,
why? I have a theory. I have a bit of a theory. Kaya di ba, and this happens. I'm not saying that it happened to me, or this. I'm the one involved here about the situation, but it has something to do with how men and women operate. I mean, we men. I speaking for myself. Visual ko. I see what I like. I I appreciate. I admire, and I go talk to them. So on the other hand, women are auditory, and the job is speaking and talking. So ikaw technically kung may ka mo storya, may ka mo take og soup call, may ka mo, soup call is a supervisor call. So you
yeah,
help people around and ma-highlight ito ang imong pinaka positive na side sa imong work. And technically what happens there is it goes to it sort of it scrapes the boundaries of unsa what attracts women towards men and what attracts men towards women. Kay mostly said ang mga nasa call center di said basta-basta. I mean, they can afford to buy, there's no dress code. So you can wear, nice clothes, like uniform. So katong, katong mga gwapa yun. Katong mga batignoong, you know.
well, yeah, to I mean, to a certain
Yeah.
extent, the
Yeah.
if the profession or if the industry requires you to be at a certain level of physical attractiveness or physical gifts, then yeah, that's maybe you're right. Maybe that's because most of us, well, I would argue that not only men are visual, but women also are visual in that sense.
Maybe.
I think
But for me, yeah.
I think I think for me it's the environment itself where you are there within the late hours. You are there together in high pressure times. And
Yeah.
as you said, after a shift, you need to unwind, and unwind results into drinking, and then drinking results into something else.
Yeah.
So that's just the nature of the business, and it's similar to the sales industry, the pharmaceutical industry, as I've mentioned, the travel industry, the hospitality industry, where there is a certain element of socializing and entertaining, each other or clients or co-workers. Then there's a high tendency there. And the reason I say that, and the reason I disagree with you on the attractiveness, is because, for example, I've worked in the tech industry most of my life, and the amount of attractive people and even on top of that, the amount of attractive plus super intelligent people in the tech industry is too many. And kung especially here in Dubai, where you have a melting pot of cultures, you can say mga gwapa-gwapa gyud o mga tisoy, mga itsuraan gyud. But rarely do I hear any sort of mischief or any sort of kanang hanky-panky going on. So, and I wouldn't say that I'm out of the loop. I I would happen to be friends with kanang mga who have the scoop ito, ang mga chismosa. So I would hear other kinds of gossip, but none yet of
This kind.
this kind. So I think it's the situation. I think it's the industry itself.
I think it's the blowback also. I mean, it's the fact that what's at stake, I would say, compared to if you're in the Philippines, because
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Also,
yes, I would say because if you're comfortable sa Pinas and you don't have, yeah, you're right. You have you're not as cautious of the consequences are versus
sure.
that you're here because
Exactly.
I mean, you can be deported, you can be put to jail.
There's a lot of things at stake. You could
Yeah.
go to jail. And I'm happy na during the time na ako sa call center industry, and I'm happy to say this, and my wife knows this also. I'm glad na wala pa si Tulfo at ang time. So, because look, most of the cases na nag-involve, let's say sa Tulfo, if you're watching or if you happen na makabantay ka, I mean, some of those are really people na magkasama sa call center, ginawa yung staff na buntis and hiniwalayan ka na mga inana, di ba, cases, di ba? So it's the consequences of being in that industry, as you're saying, karon mas na amplify siya because there's a platform already to have these grievances, and then in Amanta we have there are companies that are against nepotism, there are companies that sort of frown kind of mga company relationships and
Yeah.
within like naman and they exist. I mean, you can see them, you can feel them, but I don't know. Naman ko sa beauty industry, so like how many people have passed through our doors na like pang ano gyud pang Miss Universe gyud ang itsura, but it's a fact that these are. I mean, you can't be a raging bull in a room full of china vases. Kana ang para sa ako sa kumay. It's just that.
Oh yeah. Anyways, that was a long segue, but I'm just really curious and we're
But you're right.
really,
But you're right. I mean,
I really
it's. I will tell you, it's not a myth.
yeah.
It's out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a quick discussion on that because for I
For the
mean
longest time.
I've been asking people nganong inana man na nganong it's so conducive to that to those incidences nga happen. I even heard stories nga kakahitabo gid siya on naday sa tawag na. So you have this floor, right? And there are a lot of you and there would be sort of private rooms where you can sleep and rest.
Yeah.
And
I drive in a second.
exactly. Like ako nakadungog ko ang storya mga magmilagro pa gani dito within the same floor. I was like,
Yeah.
that is too wild.
Well,
my
actually, I mean,
That's
I
too
have-
wild, man.
God, sorry about this, but lagi ko I mean, nag-office mate me. I mean, you used to know him from Cebu na siya way back, and there's this kind of rumor may lagi going na, it's a very attractive guy. Yeah, back in the day, lagi na may like this dark area sa akong gitrabahoan before na kanang katago kita ka. It's like a mga silo of like power supply, mga generators, and then dito sila they did the deed. And then I happened to work with the guy for mga 3 years or 4 years, but I never had the nerve to ask him that, hey man,
Is it true?
meaning was about to part with the team, like, bro, come on, did you wipe that wallet? I mean, trust me, it's there is, I mean, situational, like I said, but man, the things we did
Yeah.
or they did.
Anywho, all right. So moving on. So that was the BPO industry for you. So what
For
made
me,
you
yeah.
what made you leave that and then pursue opportunities abroad?
I mean, it wasn't easy. That I thought I had it made na Marco. I could go for the industry and probably go for the next 10 years na marami akong buhaton, like additional. So I ended up been working for 18 years now. So I ended up like sort of spending the first 10 years kind of BPO, and then opportunity came na overseas. So it started with my wife going to the AE siya first, and then of course the fact that you could have the opportunity to work together again. I mean, dealing alayo because that's really just not how we both kind of find our dynamics. So I followed suite, and then as most mga OFW stories, you start over. I mean, you start from the very bottom. I mean, I did. And then you did see that. Na I went from job to job, and then I ended up thankful sa ko kay I had this opportunity na nag-start ko trabaho na medyo dako ibit ang salary.
Yeah.
So, but the hours, man, I mean, come on, it's like ridiculous, and the pressure sa the up of the performance there, and
So which
as you mentioned, multicultural.
so which industry did you start off with?
I
Katulad
started
ng
with
trabaho
brick and mortar sales. I worked in a perfume shop and managed ko team of 12 folks, different nationalities: Nepal, Filipino, Sri Lankan. Uh, I had a Kenyan, I had Iranian, I had one Afghani, I had boy melting pot. So and then I had two Ukrainians. Gapon. I mean, we had to So it's imagine that kind of how I'm shifting codes. I mean, when I say code is anang imong pagstorya bitaw. I
Yeah.
mean, that's where I'm telling you. Literally, akong 10 years na nag-work with BPO, sort of na-apply na ako dito because,
Mhm.
you would shift codes from speaking to like Indian, and then you go for Ukrainians, and then you have to mimic some of their accents, and and all that. So I spent a year and a half, and then I got fired. got fired. Na fired ko, and then that's when I started looking for and I'm just trying to find a job in the office.
Why were you let go? Was it? I thought
Performance based. It was performance.
sales. You mean?
It was sales, yeah, it was sales.
Mm.
And then they had figured number. I did come cheap. No. they had this they had this guy in like he was half, and then he was good in sales, and he was also speaking like customer Arabic and whatnot. And so they felt like, okay, I mean, maybe we could give it to him and let him do it. So yeah, ended up like that.
Sales is a very difficult job. I cannot
Oh, it
sell
is.
shit if it meant saving my life. To be honest, it's so difficult.
Used to sell, and I think muna ang mga parts na somehow sales is a gift, man. Good. I mean, it's
Yes.
situational. You can't really. I mean, I'm not saying na maiki ko ana, but kanang somehow it helps na nabito ka na experience. And
Yeah.
it was hardcore sales kapag the telephone. When I said I probably could do it, but ended up like, okay, it's a different. I should have saw the should have seen the science number. Okay, this is going nowhere. So after that, I said, okay, non-sales ang sata. So I ended up katanding a few podcasts ago, a few months ago, and we talked about the whole strategy of walking in and like looking for
Yeah.
jobs at JLT areas. I ended up, after probably a month and a week, I found the current company. So in 2015, I started August 19, 2015. And I remember dates clearly. Kaya gina-celebrate pa ko na siya. Akong tanang work anniversaries. Kind of realized na like uh, getting the job is the easy part, and landing the job is the easy part. It's
Mhm.
like staying the course is the harder part. Like I had to literally like establish a structure sa akong work, especially na kanang I'm sort of the only male Filipino staff during that time na nag-work among women. So
Mhm.
imagine the discussions, and then again multinational, and then the topics pertaining to SOPs, principles na diya. So yeah, sort of dyan ako na-apply ang philosophies of like being really diplomatic and senatorial. So you end up,
Senatorial.
or let's say gubernatorial, or like congressional na marag, you really have to find your space among many things. Long story short, kung magawa sa mga pagka mapolitika ba,
Yeah.
And I'm saying it's in every workplace, lagi na siya. I mean, those really exist, especially in the UAE. So I sort of have found my way in the midst of it, on top of it, around it. So, and that's how pretty much I figured in rather than sa akong work
So you were when you came to the UAE, you landed a management job, so to speak, with that
right away.
perfume shop. Going back again to skill acquisition, what sort of skills do you think you've learned, or not necessarily skills, or things that you've learned that you can carry on with
Um,
that particular gig?
you don't, ako na learn nato gid pinaka learning nato is if you inherit a team of people na dili bitaw ikaw nag-hire, can't can't really please everybody.
Yeah.
Can't even try to for please anyone if it saved your life. But work in their best interest. Okay, eventually, mahog na siya na kanay, you'll really end up doing stuff for them in the short term. And then mag-build na siya og kanang trust, mag-build na siya og relationship, mag-build na siya og need na nakakadiha. That's what I didn't establish. I established a culture of performance right away. I melted their brains and started implement the KPIs. I was a draconian. Kung gamay lang sa'yo, kana, fines na yun, kana deductions. And that didn't really please, especially katong mga performers nga. Kasi they would make $2,000 CSD in sales every day. So, and if you start cutting their money, but it wasn't really. And then they in the ice captain sa upper management, you had to be like ilang term dili kay you have to be strong. He's not strong. He's weak. Terminology. So
But then
you
I
have to
would
find yeah.
I would counter argue though that the way that you manage a team is also a reflection of the culture of the company. I mean, I would imagine that the reason that you went after the KPIs immediately and the performance based culture is because upper management or the company itself wanted results, or
Yeah.
else you get booted. I mean, that's completely different from let's say, a growth culture where, there are no judgments. We've hired you because we know you can do the job and we'll help you grow. That's a completely, different company. And
That's
it
that's good. That's good you mentioned that. Yeah, that's
it
great. It's growth
it's
industry.
yeah. I mean, I've I've been I've been to different companies as well, and I I can really see the impact of the culture from above trickle down to the managers. And sometimes, well, I yes, there are bad managers. There are managers who for the life of them cannot understand how to motivate the team or cannot bring the team together to accomplish a goal, because that's what a manager should do. But the fact that if an organization culture will nurture, let's say, career growth of individuals, then the manager will follow suit. So that would mean that you are more forgiving. That would mean that there is less of why did you do that versus how can we make it better. So that type of thing. And there are also, a difference in the culture where you have achieved 50% of your sales versus let's achieve 10% more on the next quarter. So, there are different cultures. And, if you, I'm speaking for the tech companies because I mean, that's where my background is for the last decade. So you have different cultures. So for example, in Uber, what they say is, no, Netflix. So Netflix has a culture of, complete, almost complete freedom where they allow. I'm not sure if this is still true today, but they don't have limits as to how much time you need to take leave or you need to take days off. You can take days off as much as you can, but you are measured according to your performance. And if you're
Right.
not, and if you're not up to standards, then you're booted out.
Then you're out. Yeah. Next
Yeah,
man
so
in.
that's also a hybrid of being independent at the same time you're being measured by your performance. There are also companies, and especially with the new ones, like Delivery Hero, with Talabat, with my company now, it's very much growth driven. Like, it's no judgments, no. It's all about what can we do better next. How can we, if you're having problem now, what can we do to help, as opposed to what can you do to solve your problem. It's always what can we do to help. And that also, I mean, in every culture there is also a downside to it. The downsides to the performance basis, obviously what you said is, your top performers will be judged on a single mishap. So kung top performer siya, but let's say on Ramadan months he or she doesn't perform,
Tanked.
kuwan siya, di ba? Ma-judge upon, and that's unfair because he has been a top performer.
Sure.
So that's the rigid 1960s factory worker, type
Assembly
of culture.
line kind of, that type.
That design where if you did not perform, I don't care, you're booted out, and that instills fear. That instills more output based as opposed to expertise or passion. Because if you have expertise and passion, then you go beyond what's being asked of you because you really like your job. What happens in these cases is, sige, I'll just output because mo man na ilang kailangan.
Right.
On the other hand, if you have a growth like our culture, is the negative tendency is katong mga low performers will be there for a long time. Okay, dili man culture namo nga amo siya papawaon kay dili siya dili siya performer, because we're always forgiving, we're always understanding, we're all about growth. And we hired him because we knew he's in the evaluation part, we knew he can do the job.
Yeah.
But then it turned out nga dili di kay siya na kamayo, but we cannot boot him out because again it's always, there's not the bottom line is there is not a perfect culture, but there is no perfect culture and structure, but the culture really dictates how managers and the whole organization would act. So yeah, it's just that. And
speaking of, like, before you got yourself into your current your current job with Delivery Hero with Talabat, it's my turn to ask you. Walk me through back in the day, how you started, how you fell in love with this industry, and how it all began.
So after uni, I took a job because I knew I'd like to go into law school. So I had to. I mean, I'm from working class parents, so I knew that although they can afford me to go to law school, but murag sagad sa expenses. So I knew I had to help out, and that's why I took a job as and this was the time when blogging was still a thing. In the early 2000s, and I took a job as a content writer for a BPO. So you have BPO with call centers like what you had, and there are also BPO which are developers, so web developers for clients in the US. So that's what I did, and then it turned into content writer. Naturally, your trajectory there would be into digital marketing, and that's what I did for maybe about a decade.
Wow.
And when the time that we decided to come over here in the UAE, obviously I continued that work as a digital marketer. Back in 2008, there was also a shortage of people who knew digital marketing. So I also took the job here. And when you're into marketing, you're also conscious about numbers. There is a whole lot of numbers in marketing, whether that be, the number of customers you bring in, the amount of marketing and advertising spend you have to make, and the different metrics in between. So then I realized that, okay, this is much more interesting to look at data and the decision making through data is what really sparked my interest. So I really had to make well, not really a 360 turn, but quite a significant shift in my career.
Pivot.
Okay, it used to be that I was looking after, what pieces to write to encourage users or customers and what channels I need to tap into to help my company acquire users while I was doing that. And then I decided that, okay, numbers really interest me. And it's I realize, I think it's quite late that I realized that I enjoy, strategic decisions through data or thinking kanang murag. And it's also coming from being or studying law, where in order for you to make a decision, you have to back it up with something. Only this time it's backing up with numbers, or as opposed to backing things up with legislation,
Jurisprudence.
jurisprudence, and all that. So this time it's numbers, and then yeah, and then the second half of my career is trying to get as much experience and knowledge with data science in general. And the thing with working with tech is you kind of predict and you kind of see where the demand and the demand of skills are coming from, or where the demand of skills are going to. So back in the day, katong nagsugod pa ang blogging and digital marketing, I knew that that's where the industry is heading. So I jumped into that. And then in 2012, 2014 maybe, I knew that data engineering, data science would also be a big thing. So I knew that way earlier. So I pivoted as what you suggested. So I've worked with different companies. So sa Pinas, I've worked with just one company, which was a digital marketing company for clients in Canada and US. I also managed a small team there. I wasn't really the manager type, although I managed teams. Mga siguro here in UAE, I managed a 5-man team, marketing team. I've managed a small 3-team analyst back when I was working in Dawbeh as well. And this time, I'm sort of the OIC in the meantime, because my manager just left the company. So I'm managing these 2 senior analysts right now.
Okay.
In the
Wow.
meantime. So muna akong on and off managerial experience, and it's pretty challenging when it's for me managing, let's say, junior junior profile individuals are a bit easier, although being a manager is still difficult altogether.
Yeah, all together.
Yeah. Managing junior individuals are a bit easier because there is so much that they can get from you, being you the experienced person. So every time, let's say every time a problem needs to solve, and you the experienced person give them the structure, the framework, and how to solve or approach the problem, then they
Yeah.
learn and they enjoy that.
Yes.
The most challenging part is managing people who know more than you technically, that is what's happening right now, which is extremely difficult. And you have to work with egos. You have to work with knowing that they know that you don't know,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And you have to frame things in a way that you're delivering value to them, as opposed to being the less knowledgeable in terms of technical skills. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting journey. And yeah, on top of that, studying while working, stuff.
Yeah.
I really can't wait to get this over with.
Happy-
Murag,
Sure.
kapoy ni-
I mean, we've spoken about it offline. You're almost gonna get off that, that hump, get over that hump rather.
Yeah,
And
September.
I guess, can you imagine the upside that will give you in terms of just being able to breathe on top without treatment. Okay, I know somehow you're now that you're in the precipice a bit of your career, when you just mentioned you're OIC for like in your current situation now, na mag-OIC ka for someone na in your words pa mamaw when it comes to this industry. Right?
Yeah.
Technically, nahog siya na mga goat when it comes to their thing. It's more of a like being able to present it to them what's in it for you and then there's nothing for me. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm the new guy, okay. And then imagine at the end of the day, but when I move up this qualifier, I mean, I'll take that. I mean, that's another mahog na achievement name, knowing that you have to be able to strategize how to do that every day and you have to give everybody a chance to eat
Yeah.
on the table.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's clear from the start when my manager. So, if I were to give context to how big of a gap my skills versus the manager who just left, it's a 10-year gap. So
Wow.
basically, my background is a mix of marketing and data science and analytics.
Yes.
So if you think about murag nagsaksak sinagol ang experience, although that's good in some extent, but if you're working for an industry which requires you specialization, this manager of mine was 10-20 years just looking at data science.
Yeah, I had.
She's a statistician, mathematician, and an all-around data scientist.
Wow.
So, and she has done that for more than 1 or 2 decades. And I've been doing this, let's say, in the past, 6-7 years lang. And obviously the director who hired me also left because the thing is, with these kinds of people, they get poached like really fast and heavily. And so the director who hired me is now a consultant and also an advisor for a couple of dating sites companies, which are huge in the UK.
Yeah.
My manager is now leading the data science team of a fintech startup, probably the biggest in the UAE. So each time you somehow cross a threshold of experience to technical skills, to data science or whatever that is in the tech industry, you get poached. I mean, even I, maski 6 years to 7 years lang go, I get offers, and I've never experienced this before. I mentioned this to you before. I get
Yeah, a couple
offers
years back. Yeah.
now 3 times a week. I've never experienced that before. Mubalibad ko offers 3 times a week. Before I would dream about getting offers. Karon mubalibad ko almost three,
Wow.
3 times a week. So it's that kind of industry. So for me to be an OIC, yes, I took up the challenge. Although it's not an official promotion, no, there's no pay raise, but
Right.
who knows? But it's also an experience. It's also a challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's see how it goes in the future.
Yeah. Now that let's say we put context to the contrasting industries that we're in. So pretty much I'm in a more really traditional
Yeah,
performance oriented,
service
KPI oriented
yeah.
service
Yeah.
and results.
Mhm.
I say everyone's on a results how to say trajectory, but
Yeah.
and you're more of the growth, tech development, and I'm say still customer facing, but how does that compare to like in terms of the pay gap? Would you think that this kind of industry that you are working in, if you had a chance to work in the Philippines or back in our hometown, would the pay be the same or would the opportunities be the same in your?
Good question. I think there are a lot of layers to it. So let's take it one by one. So in terms of opportunities, yes, there will be. Probably with my experience, if I were to translate this sa Pinas, I would be my manager's counterpart siguro. So I would probably be a head of analytics for a startup, or I'd be, let's say, VP analytics of a tech company in the Philippines. So mga equivalent sa experience, and especially and I'm lucky as well that I get to work with high profile unicorn companies. So when you say, let's say, Naspers and Olex is known worldwide. When you say Delivery Hero, so with my previous company, which was part of the Naspers group, we owned Sulit.com, and Sulit, the directors of Sulit would usually come to Dubai, and I was even coaching their analytics team back in the day, with what should they be focusing, or some of the analysis that needs to be done. With now Delivery Hero, we own Food Panda, and Food Panda is huge in the Philippines. So
Very huge. Yeah. Even in our hometown.
Yeah.
Huge.
So it's I'm very lucky and blessed that I get to work with these conglomerates that have arms, or corporate arms in Asia. So in terms of opportunities, if I were to transfer, then definitely the opportunities will be there. And basically, and let's face it, when you're outside of the Philippines, the exposure in terms of skills, in terms of, as you said, especially for you when you've worked with multinationals, and I mean same thing for me, we work with multinationals, but the way that you adjust yourself to different cultures, the way you listen, the way you speak to, the way you manage the relationships, that's a very valuable skill to have, especially kung magtrabaho ka sa Pinas. And the reason I say that is because sa Pinas, you're only dealing with one nationality, maybe 2 or 3 max, that's it.
Right.
Wala na kay adjust on, in the company that I work for right now, we are 125 different nationalities.
Wow.
So, that's a lot to consider. And
25. I mean, I guess we only had. I looked our latest HRIS. I think we have 20 different nationalities.
no, it's over.
And you have 125. Wow.
It's over 100 sa amo. I mean, it's
A lot.
literally across
Amazing.
the globe in the different positions that we have. but yeah, so that's the opportunities part. The pay gap is has a lot of layers. So one is the cost of living, and obviously you have the cost of living and the salary benchmark within a country,
Yes.
because obviously they have to benchmark that with the cost of living, with inflation, with currency, and all that. So
Region.
yeah,
Region also. I mean, in
yeah,
terms of
region, yeah,
pay gap between like Luzon and this, yeah, and even in
provinces
Mindanao.
versus the
Yeah,
metropolitan
provinces versus
cities.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one layer of it. The other layer is within the industries. Like, let's say the tech industry will be paid differently with your counterpart in, let's say, oil and gas, service industry, hospitality, and so on and so forth. So my counterpart as a, let's say, analytics manager or head of of analytics will be completely different pay to other industries within a certain set of regions. So kind of
Got it.
that creates the variation in the pay gap. Obviously, experience will be there, and then at least for the tech industry as well, if you work with a conglomerate nga inani kadako for delivery hero versus, let's say, matrabaho ka and an independent company, gamay nga company, which is self-funded or gamay rang investors, that would also create the gap. Although, let's say, mas experienciado to siya, but because I'm exposed to a wide set of,
Wider. Yeah.
let's say, data, of people, of problems, then obviously I would be more benefited. So if I carry all those differences and ibutang ako sa Pinas, then that would create the difference. I'm assuming, and this is a big assumption, I'm assuming I would be having a bigger salary than my counterpart sa Pinas who has the same amount of experience, just because I'm exposed again to bigger. But that's just an assumption. Di ko kabalo if that's real or not. If ever, I go back to the Philippines and work. But personally, I'd rather my future ambition, not only to to deepen my skills, is to work for some companies that I really want to, which is, I think this will be an interesting discussion. So
Yeah.
I've
I
told
like
my
I like this transition. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
I've told my wife this regularly, all the times, and there are only a handful of companies that I really really want to work for, and I'll tell you who. And this will be intriguing and scandalous. Number one, Pornhub. I really want to work for Pornhub. Not because of the content, but because of the amount of data that they have. The consumption data, the data of people who upload. It'll be a data scientist dream to basically process that data, because
And be able to work there. Yeah.
imagine the amount of sessions and the amount of hits that website gets.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, that's kind of, there is a lot of analysis that I can do. So let's say we know for a fact that Philippines is the topmost consumer of Pornhub in I think in 2021. But I also want to, let's say, dissect that into regions.
Sure.
I want to dissect that into cities. I want to dissect that into demographics.
Age groups, demographics.
Age groups,
Yeah.
exactly. I want to dissect that into time of day. What time? What times of day? Which days of the week are they watching porn?
Yeah.
And if also in terms of content, so which specific types or genres are they watching? Is there a change? Is there multiple genres per person? Is there what is the frequency of watch per person per demographic? It's like a million of those that I can dissect, and I can even make predictions that, okay, this particular group on Friday at 8 p.m. in the evening, they will watch this and imagine that, and you serve them content. So
Right.
yeah.
I mean, you design design the algorithm for that
Yep.
particular,
Yep.
for that group,
Yep.
very.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm not surprised about your choice of like if you're aspiring that employer or that company, because you're right. I mean, it's if you made me think that, yeah, I mean, it's only people saying that, I mean, porn is bad or it's backwards, but yeah, I mean, it's still content, and we're living in a world now that's really content driven, and the attention span of we are getting to a stage where our attention span is that of a fly, I would say. Like you have to digest videos in 5-10 seconds and be able to understand it.
Look, we
Bit
can
longer than
argue all we want on the morality of porn, on the the morality of let's say media and
yeah,
showcasing, let's say, a very sensitive
yeah.
topic, but that's
Yes,
not
and
my
taboo.
but that's not my field of work. I mean,
Yeah,
that moral battle is between the viewers and the company itself.
look,
My job,
it's like
my
it's
interest
yeah,
is user behavior.
yeah,
I really want
and
to
crunching,
understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
crunching the
I
data.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to understand why they do what they do, in what dimensions of behavior, and dimensions include, again, time of day, where, what, how. That to me is really interesting. Another company that I wanted to work for is any dating site. That is super, super, super interesting.
For
The
sure.
dating, the matching, like what's what are the parameters that individuals get to match, and what are the parameters that enables a relationship or disables a relationship, things like that. So when let's say when a individual goes to an app, sometimes the app would lets you turn on a flag whether you're in a relationship or single. And when that flag changes, then what are the parameters that involves in that? Is it because you were in a relationship after 6 months and then you turn off the flag and then you become single? What was in that combination of your attributes that made it hard for a long-term relationship? Things like that. There's a
Right, like
million.
your compatibility and results. I would
Yes.
say
Yeah.
when you swipe them, did it end up getting married, or did they
Yeah.
end up getting
Are
like
you
separated? Yeah,
are you more inclined to be with junks, or are you inclined to be more with, let's say, sophisticated individuals? I mean, there is
sure.
no right or wrong there. It's just I really want to understand behavior.
You want to know. Yeah, you
Yeah,
want to know
it's like studying psychology, but
Yes, yes,
just through the numbers, because the numbers. I know there's a human element to that, and we can debate all things, but
sure,
numbers
sure.
are
Yeah,
numbers. That's that those numbers represent behavior.
yeah. I guess the trigger as to why people go to dating sites already is the intrigue by itself.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
when you were, I mean, technically before you got married, did
Hmm.
you ever want to be in a dating site? Did you want to? Did you
None,
explore even?
none, none.
Because you're a trad. I mean, you're a traditional. We're cookie cutter. I mean, I'm traditional, so I never got the chance to.
No.
I never got to that age. So.
Apart from the fact that we didn't have those before, but
Mhm.
even up to now, I mean, if I imagine myself as being single in this day and age, I'd go to a bar. I'd go to I'd go back to, let's say, my my youthful ways of finding someone. Go to a library, go to a bookstore, spark up a
Yeah,
conversation. Go to a coffee shop, spark up a conversation.
yeah.
There is a lot of places where you can meet people. I'd rather have the serendipity that way rather than
Likewise.
this.
rather
Al-
than like the ease of
Well, although
user experience.
I cannot say for sure because again, I've never been single, or I will never be single anyways in this day and age. So I don't,
That's right.
I cannot I cannot
You really
judge.
can't judge.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
can't
cannot
really
judge
toggle
because
whether.
even though I say that, but maybe there is some arguments or maybe there are some instances where I really have to put up a dating profile. But
Right.
anyways, and lastly, I think
Interesting.
the last company that I really want to work for is NBA.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm not
So
surprised.
those are the three companies that.
You're going. I mean, I'm surprised because I'm the psychology graduate, but you're the ones wanting to learn why people do what they do.
It's
I went to
interesting.
school for that.
It's interesting.
Me, I mean, if you ask me, what are the like career progressions for me?
Yeah.
I would say and interesting because I just got a call yesterday. I applied a freelance work a year ago for a company here in somewhere in Marina. And the
Okay.
guy called me yesterday afternoon after I put feelers out in Instagram and not Instagram in LinkedIn, and I started, starting following up with my leads to see if there's any freelance opportunity. And he called me and in the afternoon. We had a good chat. He wanted to hire me as a sound recordist for a on location TV commercial for 9 days. And
Nice.
I'm like, man, I'm like, look, your secretary told me about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to say I don't know how to do that gig. I don't know exactly how to work on that, but listen to me. I am very interested to see if I could learn under you and see if you have the time on weekends to put me on an understudy. And he said,
Mm.
but I do need a guy. But like, what do you do? Like, what can you do? Like, what's something you can like charge me for freelance? I do voiceover. I do a bunch of stuff for audio. I said, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, yes, I can. And that's my portfolio, and my core competency. Okay, let me see if I have somebody, and it's TVC. I mean, he liked the idea that I was on the phone with him for like 20 minutes and said, like, yeah,
Mm.
you're Filipino, are you sure? Yeah, I am. And I started talking to him, and he had fun. Said, um, you're selling yourself short, man. I mean, it's literally what he needs me to do, and this is the gig. He wants a sound guy that can um, work with the mic people,
Mm-hmm.
who's gonna maintain the mic distance to
Yep.
the people who are on
Yep.
on the location doing the TVC,
Mm-hmm.
and then literally you're from site to where the recording to the mixing booth,
Yep.
like literally making sure that the audio is being recorded, and it's wireless. It's a wireless gig, so
Yep.
you have to make sure the frequencies are working, nothing's jamming left and right. So I'm like, God, this is such a dream gig, but I'm not skilled for it. I mean, you can't lie your way into the job. And I
I
really told
think
the
you
guy, look,
can do that.
it's
We've
not.
been doing that with our productions. You
We
can
have been,
learn that.
but yeah, but it's interesting because that's where I feel like that's my next stage. If I'm not going to be an entrepreneur, helping other people find their way through, serving or selling, I'm probably going to be in that industry. I see myself running a studio,
Yep.
wherein I can unleash a lot of creative people, and find gems and work on my passion projects. Likewise, I'm not getting any younger, and really dive through the artistic side, and then hopefully make that artistic side gets tapped, and then it goes towards, hopefully, it goes to the business side, which is
Yeah.
which is the hard part.
Yep.
For now, it's more of those. I'm getting really weird offers lately. It's mostly it's mostly that, and then also content writing also for food blogs. I mean, he
Mm.
saw there's this lady, an American lady, who said, "You're selling. You're the guy that my husband's buying this pork roasted belly for." I mean, like, I noticed that you also write good like entries for your food. Like who comes up with this? Like it's me and my wife. It's like, do you write? Like is your job writing? No, I'm in the meat industry. Ah, I thought you were a blogger because I saw your comms with my husband and you seem to write really well. I said, yeah, I mean I could still do that. So it's those things. It's the layers of between content and like creatives that I think
Go for
that's
it.
where I see
If
myself.
if I were you, if I were you, I'd I'd take I'd take an afternoon, or I'd take a session with this production guy, and you know your way through mics. I mean, we've been working on that for quite some time,
Yeah,
and do the gig for free, only for that afternoon.
that's what I had in my mind.
Yeah,
Is to is to go
test
and
it.
get the learning and the
Yeah,
value of the free
test it
course.
out,
Yeah,
because we've had at least 2 to 3 years of working together in productions. You've seen me engineer audio. You've done it yourself as well.
yeah,
You can very much do the job. I mean, if it's a recording gig, it's making sure kabalo ko unsay requirements ano. It's first of all, it's mic placement, because mic placement will dictate different levels and frequency of your recording.
yeah,
It's frequency management, and you know how that is. So making sure that it's not boomy, making sure your clarity is there, the presence is there. And then on the technical side is on the things like phasing issues, things like gain staging and all that. So you have the knowledge on all that. So you just have to apply those concepts that you've learned, that
yeah.
we've learned over the
The
past
the the
couple of
job
years.
the job how to say from the secretary, she said we need po location sound recordist kasi may
Yeah,
shoot kami soon,
yeah,
and the location sound engineer.
yeah.
And I'm like, wait, hold up. I mean, are you serious? I mean, and then she gave my number to this guy Hassan, and then he started calling, and it's like, hey, you're the guy from 2 years ago that I had this freelance job for audio, and I said, do you do it? Do you do that kind of gig? I said, and then I started telling him that I haven't, but if we had coffee and then you walk me through what you require. I don't know anybody, but maybe we can see what the location is and then we can try. So I'm going for he doesn't have the date yet. It's a 9 days gig, and I think it's gonna hit right through a few weekends. So yeah,
Go for those
I'm,
weekends.
I will probably go for those weekends and be
Yeah,
able to do those pro bono because that's the right skill right there.
yeah.
You're absolutely right. We've been
Maski ako, I can't
Come on,
even
again. That's why I'm
how to
opening
do
this
it.
up with you because this is I would say your that's again we've been doing this production for many years, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of learnings,
Yeah.
but the idea of being able to do it with the pros, that's
Go for it, Kay. It's one of those opportunities where one door leads to another, and I know you've always been aiming to get to set your foot within the entertainment industry, within the creative industry, and this
creative
is just
media, creative media
this
industry.
is
Yeah,
just one of those doors for you to get a chance to enter into. So go for it. Again, just one afternoon, just one gig. Do it for free.
yeah,
And if he finds you valuable and you find it, you enjoy the gig, then go for it.
yeah.
All right. So before we end this episode, just like what we had with the with the Corpus Christi career talk, what's one advice you can give to the kids out there who are just starting off with their careers? And yeah, one advice that you can give them that can help them either kickstart or be successful in their careers, whatever success they may define.
My advice and to like the kids out there who are just starting off is take yourself seriously.
Take
You gotta
yourself.
take yourself seriously.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of temptation to just goof around and take things easy or take things a day at a time. But I mean, it's not a bad thing when you take yourself seriously. You go for things that matter during that time, and then you end up really having, for God knows, whatever span of time that you have learned or mastered, a single focused task or an expertise. And because you've taken yourself seriously, you end up attracting like-minded people also,
Mm-hmm.
and you end up attracting, at an early age. I'm guessing people start working out at the age of 20, 21, 22.
Early 20s. Yeah.
That gives you, when you take yourself seriously, other people don't have to because you're young. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're a kid, and they know that you're going to make a mistake because you're technically an idiot. You're a kid. So imagine working backwards and being able to take yourself seriously and end up racking up years of experience. And when you hit the age of 30, 35, you're great now. You're good. And the fact that whatever crap that you threw out there, I mean, you're going to be taken seriously because you've really ended up investing your time, seriously. So that I guess is one piece of advice I'd probably tell my young self as
Young
well.
self.
Is
Yeah.
really just to take yourself seriously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm glad you brought
But
that
you,
up because the advice that I will give is exactly the same, or did it in a
sure.
different way. Yeah.
Wow.
So my advice would be something out of a title of a book by Cal Newport. And the
Nice.
title of the book is So Good They Can't Ignore You. Be so good at something that people will not ignore you. So it's the same, it's exactly the same as what you said. Choose. So in your early age, you'll be exploring things that you like and you don't like. That's okay. Take all the time you need. But once something is of interest to you, focus on that. And like what you said, build experience, build years of experience on that, until you become really, really good that they cannot ignore you. And the results of that are tenfolds, and the results of that are different benefits to you and to people around you. Number one, you will come to a point where everything is muscle memory. Everything you can do with eyes closed because you have
Yes.
deep knowledge. You have repeatedly done something that it's automatic. That's number one. So you a sub benefit to that is you gain freedom. And freedom in the sense that you gain freedom of time. When people don't have experience, they work extra hours because they have to think, they have to figure out how to solve a problem, how to do the work. When you're so good, you can do it with your eyes closed, you can do it in less time. What can you do with extra time? That's your freedom. If a job requires an ordinary person 4 hours and you can do it in 30 minutes, you have 3.5 of hours of freedom. What do you do with that freedom? It's up to you. You enjoy, you relax, whatever that is. That's freedom. That's a benefit to you. The other thing as a result of being so good is you deliver value. And once you deliver value, that comes with great rewards, monetary benefits, recognition. Imagine all that you can gain because you're so good at something. You're an expert in an industry, you deliver value, and therefore you acquire value. That's always the case. That's the rule of world economics. You give value, you receive value. It's as simple as that. But you can only deliver value if something is really valuable, and that is your expertise, your time, your
Yeah.
experience. And lastly, but not the least, I know this is cliche, but it is fulfillment, self-fulfillment. It is something that cannot be explained, cannot be quantified. Is that you do something which you feel like it's your purpose. Like for example, for you, right? You've you're the core of yourself is creativity, and not until you get to a point where you can deliver creativity, you're not really that fulfilled 100%.
Yeah.
Once you get into that industry, no matter how small the pay is, or no matter how tedious the work is, if you're performing the thing that is within your core, which is creativity, the self-fulfillment will take care of itself, and it will compensate basically for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 100%. My advice is similar to yours. It's just be serious about yourself, and then be so good that they can't ignore
So
you.
good.
That's
Yeah.
until you get to that point, then it's work. It'll be work. But yeah,
Right.
I wish for me, I imagine if I started data science and being a data analyst at my age at 20, damn, I'd be in an advisory role right now. Probably knock on the door of Pornhub and say, "Hey, I've got 20 years of experience. What do you want to know about Pornhub?"
Yeah.
I can
That's
get
gonna
that.
be the entry line.
Yeah, that's that would
That's
be
gonna be your
yeah.
FU statement. That's
Yeah,
what's
and
gonna
they
be written.
and
Yeah.
they won't be able to ignore me because I've got
No.
20
Because
years
you're
of
so good.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be so good. So yeah, cool. What a serious episode we got here.
Yeah, but I'm glad that we brought this up because
Yep.
this added value to
Hopefully.
like I'm saying how to say self evaluation at the same time adds value also to listeners, which you mentioned early offline that a lot of our people and friends are missing us in YouTube.
Yeah, that's
So
true. That's true.
so
So,
this
yeah.
is gonna be on there. So guys, you're not gonna miss us anymore.
And by the way, stay tuned for next week. We have a guest.
Oh, guest.
I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever we have that episode of guest, that will come out the week after Pro Monday.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be weeks. I mean, look, the time flew now. It's like the week just flew. I'm saying. So we're excited also to have this guest,
Yep.
the opportunity to talk to her again. So
It's
you're
a
there
her.
just as
a
much as we
she.
can give as a teaser.
Yeah. So we'll have that guest, and then that episode will come out in 2 weeks' time. So we will have another one next week. So stay tuned for
Yeah.
that as well. So thank you very much, guys, for staying with us. Although that was a more serious discussion, but I hope that brings value in one way or another. So
Absolutely.
this has been your host, Dave Fuentes.
And your other host, Mike Rodriguez. Thank you very much.
And this has been episode 13 of Foodhaus. See you on the next one. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ikaw lang ako